Hello everyone, it's GigaBeef here, and let me tell you what's happened to the RSASS. Well, absolutely nothing actually, but as everything else is getting banned off the flea around it, the relative position of the RSASS amongst the different options is, well, getting better. There used to be no point buying an RSASS when the SR25 and M1A were available for 60k from the market, as $1,587 for the base weapon was extremely bad value compared to the alternatives. But now that the SR, for example, is only purchasable from Peacekeeper 3 for $1,177, equivalent to about 126,000 rubles, this makes the jump up to the RSASS much more compelling. Before we continue with our PMC's security with the RSASS, I'd like to talk a bit about cybersecurity, brought to you by the sponsor of today's video, NordVPN. How many of you are still using the same passwords across multiple websites? I get it, each site with their own version of 2 capital letters, not in a row, 3 symbols, and whistle the national anthem at the same time is pretty tiring, but the majority of account hacking these days happens through what is known as credential stuffing. Picture this, you use your email and regular password on random sites A, B and C, but unfortunately site C is not maintained properly and has a data breach. They might not even know this has happened, but off goes your credentials into the underbelly of the internet. From here, anyone who ends up acquiring this information is freely able to try any of the popular websites using said credentials. And guess what? If you're using the same password, off goes your Facebook, Gmail or anything else that shared the same login info. Clearly, using different passwords for each website is the ideal, along with 2-factor authentication if available, but it's still a real headache to remember them all, so using a trusted password manager such as NordVPN's NordPass to generate strong, unique logins for you is essential. You should also constantly check your email status on databases like haveibeenowned.com or turn on Dark Web Monitor via NordVPN to get alerted to any breaches. But NordPass is just one small piece of the overall Nord puzzle. You wouldn't go into a serious raid like this in Tarkov, bare, unprotected, and without the right tools for the job, so why would you use the internet like this? With NordVPN, you can browse securely even on public Wi-Fi and automatically filter out malicious traffic with Nord's CyberSec feature, which comes included, as well as significantly reducing the amount of data collected on you across the net by anonymizing your web traffic. You can connect to over 5,000 servers located in 60 countries, allowing you to access content from streaming services like Netflix that you wouldn't ordinarily be able to watch. What's more, if you head over to NordVPN/GigaBeef, you'll get a massive discount on a 2-year plan that comes with 4 months free on top. And if you're not satisfied, Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee has you covered. So go to NordVPN/GigaBeef today, the link is down in the description and the pinned comment. So back to our Tarkov security, the RSASS is at Peacekeeper 4, so it's certainly a late game weapon, but pricing wise there's an important aspect that makes it cheaper than it looks. $1,587 at the current exchange rate of 107 makes it 170k. But the most economically minded players don't get their dollars this way. There are a variety of info items that work out better than this, so buying them from the fleet and selling them back to Peacekeeper can get you a much better rate, but you typically have to be looking out for them over time rather than doing it all at once. Between the various items, on average you can secure something like a 90 exchange rate if you're careful, which is roughly a 15% discount compared to the trader, making the RSASS closer to 140k instead, although obviously this makes the SR25 cheaper too at 106,000. While the RSASS still looks a lot more expensive, the base version comes with some meta parts, which makes the overall cost much closer to the other regular high-end builds than it looks to begin with, which we'll go through shortly. There's one more way to get the RSASS from the traders, which is the Peacekeeper 3 barter, where you need 8 bear and 8 USEC dog tags equal to or above level 15. This is usually the way players get it for Gunsmith, as it's hard to find an RSASS before this, and it is theoretically the cheapest way to buy it. Player dog tags sell to Therapist for their level multiplied by 378 rubles, so if you had all level 15 tags, which are worth 5,670 each, it would only cost you 91k. Basically, unless you have a compelling reason to use the dog tags for something else and you want to use the RSASS, any tags from level 15 to 23 are efficient to buy this weapon, unless of course you don't have Peacekeeper 4 and you want to use it, in which case any dog tags will do. So first and foremost, I want to point out where the RSASS really shines, and that is on its return to center time. This is extremely fast, as the reticle resets back much quicker than on an M1A or a G28 for example, and still slightly faster than an SR25. This allows you to get off more accurate shots in the same time period, increasing the effective fire rate of the weapon at medium and long ranges, which makes the RSASS feel incredibly solid to use, hence why it's so well thought of by the community in general, especially long-time players who used it a bunch before it became less accessible. So onto the builds. We've already established that this is not a cheap weapon, so trying to craft a budget build for it would be rather pointless. However, the stock version does come with a decent mag and 20 M80 rounds, which are worth roughly 10k together, the longest barrel, and the lowest recoil handguard and gas block combo. The min recoil version goes like this, with a QDC muzzle brake kit and a QDC suppressor attached on the front, the 4-inch rail and an RK2 foregrip, the advanced tube and the PRS Gen 3 stock. From here we add the Growl pistol grip and the 2 Chris iron sights for ergo only, which comes to 18 ergonomics and 44 recoil. This is clearly an insane recoil number for a 7.62 NATO weapon, but the ergo kinda sucks, so as usual we'll optimise this a bit. Replacing the foregrip with an SE5 and the stock with an MOE carbine and pad on top of the advanced tube comes to 41 ergonomics and 51 recoil, which makes the gun feel much more usable and hardly sacrifices any handling at all when it comes to recoil. Typically you'd combine this with a Voodoo or a similar high-end optic depending on your preference, and maybe a tactical device which will reduce the ergo a little more, down to around 36 depending on what you pick. Now the one thing that I will point out here is the weight. This build, when fully loaded with rounds, comes to 6.5 kilograms, which is incredibly heavy. As we now know from my arms stamina video, this does have a detrimental effect on the length of time with which you can hold the gun up in ADS, and it will also affect the kits that you can bring and still be underweight. That is, if you care about moving at max speed or leveling endurance. There's not much that we can do about this because the base gun is so heavy to begin with, but one change that I usually make is to use the Thunderbeast suppressor instead, because this weighs a lot less, is much cheaper when using the barter than the QDC combo, and the change in recoil matters less on the RSASS anyway because of its fast recentering time and the fact that it's semi-auto. To improve our ergonomics, swapping over the barrels to the medium length is also possible, and for doing so you gain 9 ergo and lose a tiny bit of weight at the expense of 10 recoil points. The meta build from earlier then gets to 45 ergo and 61 recoil versus 36 and 51 for the long barrel. With the Thunderbeast, this changes it to 69 recoil with also 45 ergonomics and lowers the weight to 6 kilograms. Fortunately, swapping out the barrel normally only costs about 5k usually, as the long version sells for 35,000 to mechanic. This means we need 76,000's worth of parts, 30k for the Thunderbeast barter, and 5k to swap the barrel over for 110k. Then we need to buy the gun, coming to just over 250k all in based on the prices we discussed earlier. If you use the dog tags barter, the cheapest possible that you could get it for is 200k all in, which rivals the SR and the M1A for value. I've been using a very similar one to this for a bunch of raids, and it's been feeling pretty solid so far. It's always worth mentioning that if you're okay with going loud, it is possible to use the blast mitigation 3-part muzzle, as with the same build you'll move up to 63 ergonomics and 64 recoil. It's a rare and niche choice, but it could be fun to have decent ADS speed. Ammo wise, I don't think there's really any alternative but to use M61 if you can. To limit losses, I take 3 mags with 10 M61s and 10 M62s underneath in the gun, and then 5 and 15 in the other 2. It is expensive, but it feels incredible to use and is certainly justified when using endgame guns in my opinion, as it kills PMCs in 2 shots to the thorax regardless of armor, and bosses, rogues and raiders are all dealt with equally alike. Finally, let's take a look at a few clips of the RSASS in action from some of my recent raids. In here. Basically, the one thing that I need out of Mark II is the Gingy keychain. Oh, that's very bad. I missed the thing. Now that is extremely unfortunate. Other videos, I'm around 1,000 hours and they're super helpful. Still feel like I'm getting used to the game. Well, don't we all? Don't we all? We'll heal up stomach, head, and thorax ourselves, and then we'll let the Propatal do the rest of the work. Good. Okay. If I have a Raven, we will just skedaddle, is the technical term. Okay. Some random POC. Helps when there's M61 in there. I will say. Not sure whether we can actually loot him though. Okay, that fight is still going on over there. I feel like maybe we can. Crazy fight over there. Really crazy fight. Thing is, we actually don't need to kill PMCs. Which is sort of the issue. So we're going to slide past gas station. I haven't heard any fighting from gas station. So I assume that there isn't like Rishala boys there or anything like that. But I'm going to have a quick look. Like Scav's fighting somebody out there in the open area. Okay, that was a PMC. Okay. I've really got into M61, by the way. I will say, like, I've really got into this ammo. I know it's good, and everyone knows it's good, but not enough people seem to actually go and use it, for whatever reason. Whiz over and see if we can go and loot these boys. This was the guy I killed. Who's this one? Is that another scav? Yeah, this is a random scav. This is the guy I killed. Here. He's got a big thing on. Plus this. Plus... actually, half decent gun. I mean, all of that stuff is really obvious. So I think there's a high likelihood that it gets taken because it's just out in the open. But you never know. Plus, the fact that it's going to be just like lying underneath the dude, so we might get it back. I mean, what time is it? 27? Yeah, it's still relatively early. So it might get taken, but what I'm thinking is the RSASS has been okay. I had a couple of raids with the RSASS, but it's really heavy. And so if you're running like a decent kit with class 5, it's actually very difficult, in my opinion, to put together something that's underweight whilst using it because it's very, very, very weighty. Goodness me. How bad are the short barrel muzzle devices? Oh, terrible. It's like the Gemtech 1 and the Hybrid 46, which like they're okay for ergo, but they suck for recoil. And the M1A really loves good recoil. M1A is a sucker for recoil, it is. It's a very high base recoil gun. That feels bad, doesn't it? Hey, look, throw the nade, please. Oh. He just straight up died. And sending Ash 12 rounds for 1,300 each. Yeah, people love that stuff. Playing through the scav bug? I mean, it's only to my advantage, right? I don't really lose anything from the scav bug. Just means they won't shoot me now. I feel like the last stream I did, it was really noticeable. For some reason. What's the likelihood someone comes through here? feel like high-ish. Ooh. See now, for you interchange players, is that on the same floor as me? Or is that upstairs? It sounds like it's on the same floor, but I just can't. I literally can't tell. Can't imagine it's down here. Oh, pretty sure it's upstairs. Oh, great. Whoop, 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 whoop. Wonderful. Oh, I see him.
Gold, please. Love the vibes. Thanks for the great content.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Reverse. Thanks for the 2 months, dude. Oh, he is dead. Okay. I wasn't sure if he died. I guess we could go all the way out, like around the back. Not sure if that's really a sensible proposition, but we can try. You interchange main? I don't know. I feel like an SVD or something. These interchanges, they've always got it. They've always got another one. There's always another. Usually at least one. One of the things that I find a bit weird about Tarky is that you basically have to be playing like full sweat mode. But if you don't know where you're going, playing full sweat mode often means you just like run into people's guns and then they kill you. Do you know what I mean? Should we check under the ramp? Well... Yes. Yes, we shall. Whew. I think that was... Was it an M4? I think the fire rate was too slow for it to be an MP7. I feel like it was M4. Oh, it's a scav. Okay, well with that scav, that's good. Okay, fine. It is good actually, yeah. You're right. An AI scav, I don't know where he went. Oh, he's got a fast MT with all the shenanigans. Guess we drop our bag. Alright. Have to remember the scav's still down here. Right. Oh my god. Okay. Are we ever going to leave this area? God, all the scavs coming in, aren't they? That was the scav taking the sweaty gun. And was this the dude himself? Or was that another scav? Was indeed dude, or someone's got these beautiful pair of contact 4s. Okay, what's my extract? Emacom. This way. It was an M4. It was an M4. I told you. I told you. Turn the laser off. Yes, good point. So thanks again to NordVPN for sponsoring today's video. Next up, go and check out my video on ricochet chance if you want the ability to occasionally bounce an M61 off your glasses. Otherwise, as usual, a big shout out to all my patrons. Hit all the buttons if you enjoyed the video, and as always, have fun in your raids.